He joins us, the great man Sly.
Good morning, gentlemen. First off, an apology. Obviously, there's lots of buttons here and I'm not particularly good, and I must have pressed the dump button last week and therefore was blacked out. That can be the only justification for the fact that I seem to recall talking about what happened with that 13-year-old with the racial vilification issue at the MCG, explaining that in fact she wasn't held for 2 hours, questioned for 2 hours and whatnot, and yet that myth continues. Take, for example, Liberal Senator Cory Bernardi on Q&A.
And, you know, for a 13-year-old girl to be taken into the police custody and questioned for 2 hours without an adult present, I think is a deeply troubling experience for anyone to experience. And equally, Eddie Maguire, there seems to be, you know, a cavalier approach. Well, Eddie's done the wrong thing, but that's Eddie, and I don't think that's acceptable either.
So quite clearly the Senator's 100% right. If that had happened, it would be disturbing. Trouble is, it didn't happen. So let's actually go through it forensically, what happened.
Because you did say this last week, and I've noticed that it persists throughout the media, this notion that she was interviewed by police for 2 hours.
Because it suits certain people's arguments, so they are ignoring the facts. What happened was, as you know, she was pointed out. The secure court guard came down to get her. The crowd was turning ugly. He said to the grandmother, "Do you want to come? You should come." She said, "No, I've got 2 other kids to look after." The security guard took her up. If you notice, he's doing crowd management perfectly with his hands outstretched, trying to calm the crowd down. He gets to the top. Police have been called. An experienced female sergeant arrives, unaware of the circumstances. The girl is beside herself. She is hysterical. She can hardly speak. She, that is the policewoman, speaks briefly. The crowd is turning ugly and is starting to throw things. The policewoman rightly takes the girl to the police rooms to protect her. At this point, some nong starts walking along beside them, screaming abuse at this little girl. The policewoman puts a protective arm around this kid to protect her and then calls other police to get this nong evicted. She arrives at the police rooms. She's put outside on a bench. Her grandmother is called, not 2 hours, 4 minutes. 4 minutes. She's there. The grandmother is asked, "Do you want this matter dealt with now or later?" She says now. The girl gives her version of events, which includes calling Goods an ape. Now, what do we do now? Do we take her at her word or do we corroborate it? Of course you do. They go to the Sydney rooms. There is the delay. It's an AFL delay. You can't see this man because he's warming down. So they have to cool their heels while they wait. Then they get to Goods. Now, what if Goods said she had said something different, but she didn't? Said, "That's exactly what happened. I'm happy with that." He signed a statement of no complaint. She was never going to get charged. If Goods had said he wanted to go further, they would have been brought into a room and Goods would have been able to discuss it with the 13-year-old. She simply was never going to get charged. They go back. It's all sweet as a nut. And then the grandmother thanks the police for what happened. And then a police senior officer comes for what's known as a welfare check. "Are you happy with what happened?" "Yes, terribly happy. Thank you very much." So what have the coppers done? They protected the girl from the crowd. They've investigated the circumstances and they've corroborated the version of events and let her go. That's as simple as that is. And I'm sorry that doesn't fit with it. So if they hadn't so-called dragged her out, you would have left a 13-year-old there with a crowd baying for her blood, and what would have happened? And the same commentators would now be attacking the bloody police and Secure Corp for not doing their job. They did. And if, for example, they had interviewed this girl for 2 hours, which is a nonsense, what could you ask her other than, "What's your name? What's your address? What did you say? Do you know that was bad?" You go on to talk about global warming, traffic in Melbourne? No. You couldn't speak to her for 2 hours. If they had, without a guardian, they should be charged. It's a nonsense.
Thank you very much.